Well, we are at the end of the season for our New York Knicks. Welcome, Harlem2MSG season review. This team, I don't know what to make of this team, tell you the truth. But if we go back to the very beginning, I said 55 win, double nickel. They were in position to do that. And for whatever reason, the team just said, forget about it. We have the number 3 seed. We have to make sure we get into the playoffs healthy. And that's what I think it was. And they just poo-pooed the last 2 weeks of the season. Easy to make that claim based upon the results, but going into the last 2 weeks, I clearly felt they were in position to get those 55 wins, but they didn't do it. But as we look at the rest of the portion of the year for the Knicks, 51 wins is not anything to poo-poo at. When you consider the 3 years of JB, 47 wins, 50 wins last season, and 51 this year. So yes, a natural progression based upon the escapades of our leading captain. The team really didn't know what they had first year. None of us knew, to be realistic. They didn't know he was going to be MVP quality player in that first season, reaffirmed in the second season, and then bought all in for the third season. But I think that the end result of that buying all in the third season ultimately didn't live up to expectations. Bringing on Bridges, Cat, swapping out um, Randall and DiVincenzo, that may seem good on paper. And we knew going into the season that we were not going to be able to retain Harden, so I'm not even going to conclude that. But in just those two things, the temper of this team was altered. And what we did not see during the whole duration of this year was a level of fight that was consistent to what last year was. And I don't know why that is. I'm not going to say that Cat is not a fighter. I'm not going to say that. How he performed last year against Jokic, you can't put anything past him. He played Jokic to the point to where he had an impact upon the game. And because of that, Minnesota won. He had an effect upon the game. So he was a fighter. This year, he fought harder than any position to any point in time during the year that he was in the NBA. And I was shocked at that. So I can't say the softness or the lack of response from competitive standpoint was seen by Cat. I was clearly disappointed in Bridges. I felt that he had a little bit more fight in him, and I didn't see that. I don't know why. I don't want to say that's him as a player, but something happened this year that took the fight out of him, or to the level that I was expecting. Having seen him in Villanova, having seen him in Phoenix, being the the third type of player, having an impact and even having an impact on the defensive end the way that he was. Do I want to put it as the league figured him out defensively? It's possible. Is he too weak to be able to hang out on the perimeter now with the likes of, Caden and other types of guys, Cade and other types of guys? But I can't put my finger on it at this point. But also, I also think he was underutilized throughout the year. And then as we saw when Brunson was out, there was components of his game that was shown that he can be a final offensive threat. But even at that, he was inconsistent. So again, I don't know what Bridges is with this team. Different from what I expected when he came on to the Knicks. I thought differently. I saw more of a defensive stopper type of a player and a more of efficient offensive player. His mid-range game is on top notch, which is great. But in games where they played up against the top performers of the league, the Bostons, the Clevelands, and Oklahoma Cities, non-existent. He looked shook in those games, and that I did not expect. So to say that the underperformance is something that should be expected, no, because even when he played with Phoenix without Kevin Durant on that team, with just Chris Paul, Booker, and Aiden, he still was a phenomenal player. Maybe he was the best. Maybe he's a good four and not a three. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I was underwhelmed by his performance this year, and that was a surprise. As far as OG is concerned, I did expect him to be more greatly utilized throughout this year, and that was only seen when Brunson was out, and that's a component of this team that I'm struggling with because I know JB is that guy, but there's a portion of his game that gives me an impression that there are certain points of the game where he tries to show that he's that guy, as if he has to prove himself every single time. And even though you may have that mentality, you don't have to. How you go about it is important. You don't want to do it at the expense of your team, especially when they have capabilities, because you lose their heart. So where does he find that balance? That's for him to decide. He's a two-time champion in the NCAA's. That's what I stuck him on. I saw it in Villanova, how he was able to properly manage the varying skill sets on that team to keep everybody to the high point. I did not see that this year, keeping everybody at the high point to be engaged throughout the whole 48 minutes of a game. I didn't see that. So whether it was because of his playing style or anything that he's doing, I don't know. But I would like to think that at the end of the day, how he plays is going to impact how the others play. And if that's the case, we lost because each player, regardless of the situation, should always want to play at the highest point. So whether you get in the ball or not, defensively, you should not be less engaged because of it. And there are portions of the game where I've seen that happen. But again, it happens to the best of us. Just in general, playing ball in the park. If you don't touch the ball, I understand that feeling. So it's not far fetched for the human element to come into a game. And with this team, I didn't see enough to where they were a cohesive unit to where, regardless of whatever is happening on the court, whether they touching the ball or not, that they were all working toward the same goal of winning that game in a way that showed that they were a team. Didn't see that. But does that shift to coaching? Does that shift to management? Or does it remain with the players? I think it's a bit of both, all of it together. Could the coaching have been better? Well, I've been saying that for the past 6 years or 5 years that Tips has been here. Yeah, I never was uh, the person that really was a buy into Tibbs' ability as a coach. I always still felt that he lacked in the ability to be able to be strategic in about his ways. He plays a certain way, and if that way doesn't work, I still feel he loses. He's not able to adapt. And that's seen in how the offenses run. And here's the weird part. When Brunson's not there, the offense runs better. Doesn't lead to wins though. Because while Brunson was out, they were barely 500, but the offense ran better. So where do you have it? Again, I don't understand the team. And as I put onto my note, I said 55 wins. They did got nowhere near it. 51 wins, still a great accomplishment. It was more wins that they've had since the Kamala days. So I can't poo-poo it. But at the end of the day, this team demonstrated on the court that they were not able to compete properly with the Celtics nor the Cavs in the East. They played a good 3 quarters against Oklahoma City. What does that mean? Absolutely nothing. So who is this Knicks team? Well, at the end of these 82 games, they still had the third most wins in the 2025 season. Great accomplishment. Offensively, the top 6 performers on this team are projected to average 100 points a game. They average 109. Great. Top 6 performers on the team. How those points were distributed were not in the manner in which I really wanted, but they still average more per game. Could this team um, morph itself in the playoffs to be able to do like they did with Philadelphia? You know, lock in and focus upon doing what they do best and out hustling the team that's in front of them with this Detroit team coming in the playoffs? I hope so. The confidence is not there because they haven't demonstrated it all year. So it's one of those scenarios where you have to prove it to me that that's what you're capable of doing. I know it's Brunson. I know that. OG last year showed that he can compete. But this year, I kind of felt that there was an element of, I don't get the ball enough. I'm not allowed to show what I can do offensively. And for that, it hurts a bit. And whether that impacts my defense, I hope not. You saw the lapse in the last game against the Celtics when, he allowed Jason, well, no, not allowed because Jason Tatum is still a beast, underappreciated play in this league. As you said, I should have fouled him. No, you should have been denied him the ball. That's what you should have done, like you've been doing the whole fourth quarter. So those mental lapses is something that I don't I'm struggling with this team because it's not a situation where you can allow yourself to fail in any particular one moment. You have to be on point every single point of the game, and especially in the last portion of the game, because that's when it counts. That's money time. Are you going to be a money player? And if you're not going to be a money player, then what you going to do about it? Are you going to show yourself um, to be top notch in that way? So ultimately, we do need to see that this team is able to identify what they need to do to win each game, number one, and ultimately the series against the Detroit Pistons. Because right now, the feeling going into the playoff series with with the Detroit Pistons that they're disjointed. They're not together, and I don't know how they get together because I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if the problem is the coach or the players. And if you have that question from out looking into this team, that in itself is a challenge. And I misquoted myself. I misstated myself, rather, I should say. Top 5 record in the NBA this year. Sorry about that. So, who are these New York Knicks? Well, for the 2025 season, they're top 3 in the East. Great. Top 5 in the NBA. Great. It's a nice thing to have, but championships are not built on just being the top in the regular season. They have to be able to do it during the postseason. Regular season just to get there. They got there. Now they got to do something with it. They're going to shock the world. It starts with a very tough team. This Detroit Piston team is not one to be overlooked. Can they be beat? Of course, definitely, so they can be beat. Does this team have what it takes to beat them? Has to be seen. I kind of got the feeling they may go seven. It may go seven. I would love it to go 4 or 5. You know, get in, get out. I would love that, but I don't see that because I don't have the confidence that this team has been able to identify what it is that keeps them disconnected and not connected. And if they can figure that out during this playoff season and this series itself, great. But I don't know if they have that in them, and that's something that they will have to do. Don't want to compare them to last year's team because it's a totally different team. You know, um, totally different makeup, totally different mindset. They were a bunch of they were a bunch of fighters, underappreciated players on the court who work together. This team is a highly skilled team that has varying facets that can be utilized. And in that context, I don't think the coach is capable enough to be able to draw that out to the best way. I feel he works best with the hustle type of a team, and this is not a hustle type of a team. It's not a negative. It's just that the makeup of this team is just different. So that's what I see. And I'm lost for words at this present time because these guys just don't demonstrate enough of a unit togetherness to build that confidence to be able to say they can actually do it. It has to be seen, and it hasn't been seen throughout the whole year. They can beat everybody else, but when it comes down to it, can they now apply that beat everybody else mentality onto these other teams? Well, it starts with Detroit. A nice 2025 season, 51 wins is not anything to snatch at, something to sneeze at, but now is the time. It's the time to show um, that who you are. And if they are a true unified unit, then they should move past Detroit in a way that clearly shows that they are that team, and then bring it on to the next round. So we'll chat again during that next round. Hopefully there's a next round. And if not, our next talk will be a true season in review, which I don't want to do. So here we are with that. I'm still Harlem to MSG, still Let's Go Knicks, still New York.